My name is Elizabeth. I'm sitting in the witness box of the courthouse, gripping my mother's old bracelet, with my daughter, Ava, sitting beside me. The trial of my ex-husband, Ryan, and his mother, Margaret, has just concluded. The jury has delivered their verdict. Ryan gets 15 years in prison for attempted arson, conspiracy to harm a family member, and use of forged documents. Margaret, 8 years for conspiracy and falsifying financial records. It all seems like a nightmare that I've finally woken up from. But it all started a few months ago. I'm a curator at a well-known private art gallery in San Francisco. I've always been more focused on my work than my appearance, but my job requires me to look presentable. I lived with Ryan, a real estate developer, and our 5-year-old daughter, Ava. Our house was in the suburbs, a beautiful 2-story Victorian-style home that we'd renovated. It was surrounded by a large garden and had a view of the ocean in the distance. My mother, a wealthy businesswoman, passed away suddenly during a trip to Hawaii. She left me a fortune of about $3 million, mostly from her successful chain of restaurants. After the funeral, Ryan started acting strangely. He was always on the phone, had late-night meetings, and I'd overhear hushed conversations in his study. Whenever I asked, he'd just tell me I was overthinking and that he was working hard for our future. Ava, with her big blue eyes and golden curls, had always been a very imaginative child. But lately, she'd become quiet. One day, while I was making breakfast, she sat by the window and said, "Mom, don't you see the shadows outside?
They're talking about you."
I tried to brush it off, thinking it was just her imagination. A few days later, Ava was drawing a lot. Her drawings were no longer of fairies and unicorns, but of a house surrounded by dark clouds and faceless figures. When I asked her what she was drawing, she said, "The ones waiting for you to go away." One afternoon, while cleaning the attic, I found an old leather journal. Inside were sketches of our house, showing an underground passage that led from the basement to an old storage room. I'd never known about this passage, and it wasn't mentioned in the house inspection reports. Ava then told me that in her dreams, my mother had shown her the way to this passage. That same evening, Ava whispered to me that she'd heard Ryan on the phone saying, "If she disappears, all the money will be mine." I decided to investigate further. I sneaked into Ryan's office and found a crumpled stack of papers in the trash. There was a diagram of our home security system set to full lockdown and a blueprint of the house. A note said, "Make sure there are no escape routes." Then I received a call from a bank. They were confirming a request to close my mother's savings account with a signature that was supposed to be mine. I knew Ryan was trying to steal my mother's inheritance. That night, Ryan came home early, saying he'd finished his business trip. I was in the basement, looking at the passage. When I heard him come in, I hid in the shadows. He called out for me, saying we needed to talk. Suddenly, the security system activated. All the doors and windows locked, and I could smell gasoline. I was trapped. I remembered the underground passage and managed to crawl through it. I ran to our neighbor, Mrs. Thompson's house, and she called the police. As I watched my house burn from Mrs. Thompson's window, I realized how close I'd come to death. The police found evidence of Ryan's plan, including a fake life insurance policy with him as the beneficiary, forged documents, and a large amount of cash in his car. After the trial, Ava and I moved to a small cottage by the lake. Ava quickly made friends at her new school and became close to her art teacher, Ms.
Grace.
I returned to my job at the gallery and started planning a foundation for young female artists, using part of my mother's inheritance. On a Christmas evening, Ava gave me a drawing of the three of us, me, her, and a man who looked like Jake, an architect I'd met at a gallery restoration project. Ava said, "This is our family. When Mr. Jake is here, it feels warm." Jake came over that night with a bouquet of flowers and a cake. We had a wonderful dinner, and Ava laughed and played. As I tucked Ava into bed, she asked, "Mom, will we always be here?" I told her, "This is our home, and no one can take it away from us." Downstairs, Jake and I sat by the fireplace. He said, "Maybe family is something you choose, not just something you're born into. I nodded, feeling a new sense of hope and security. I've learned that in the face of betrayal and danger, the love between a mother and daughter and the support of new friends can help you rebuild your life. I am Elizabeth, and I've survived to start a new chapter.